Alright people, so welcome to Jumbo IAS and welcome to UPSC Prelims Phoenix batch. In this batch, we revise the entire syllabus for UPSC Prelims examination, both static as well as current affairs. Now this particular lecture is part of our static lecture series, and in this lecture series, we are currently covering Indian polity. Now today is day 5 of Indian polity, and your daily targets for day 5 are, well, President, Vice President, Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers, and CAG and Attorney General. Basically the entire union executive. These are your daily targets. Now the notes for these targets were shared with you well in advance. I'm sincerely hoping that you have already gone through the notes, and now after going through the notes, now you're sitting for this lecture. Please do not sit for this lecture without going through the notes. That is very important. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have already gone through the notes, and now you're going to revise these topics again through a set of 30 MCQs. So let's begin. All right. So yeah, Indian polity day 5, and well, the entire union executive is part of our syllabus today. So let's quickly start this. Question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding the election of President of India. The Electoral College consists of elected members of both houses of parliament and the state legislative assemblies. Okay. Nominated members of state legislative assemblies can vote in the election but not in impeachment. Value of the vote of an MP is calculated by dividing the total value of votes of all MLAs and of all states by the total number of elected members of parliament. Now, President of India is elected via an electoral college. And who are the members of this electoral college? Well, all the elected members. Remember, elected members of both houses of parliament. So this doesn't include nominated members of Rajya Sabha, okay, and elected members of state legislative assembly. Elected members is important, right? Nominated members of state legislative assembly can vote. No, they cannot. They are not part of the electoral college. Now, what is the value of vote for each member of electoral college? So as far as all the MLAs are concerned, the value of vote of each MLA is total population of the state from where they are coming. Okay, population of the state from which they are MLA. Okay, and this population shall be as according to 1971 census. Because there were certain developments, the population, the electoral college votes were frozen at 1971 census. Divided by total number of MLAs in that state, okay, into 1000. So total MLAs into 1000, well, total population is divided by that. This is the value of vote of each MLA. And then what is the value of vote of each MP, member of parliament? Well, that is, well, total value of votes of all MLAs. Divided by total MPs in parliament. This is the value of vote for each MP. Okay, so value of vote of an MP is calculated by dividing the total value of votes of all MLAs of all states by total number of elected. Absolutely correct. B. Okay, next. With reference to the impeachment of President of India, consider the following statements. The impeachment charges can be initiated by either House of Parliament. The resolution must be passed by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members of House present and voting. Nominated members of Parliament participate in the impeachment process. Now, the President's impeachment, basically that is the removal. So the impeachment charges can be initiated in either House of the Parliament. Absolutely correct. Now, once they are initiated, how many votes are required to impeach a president? Well, it is 2/3 of total membership of the House. So it's not 2/3 present and voting. It's 2/3 of total membership. So if there are total 100 members in a particular house, at least 66 votes should be secured. Okay, even though only 50 people are attending, still 66 votes need to be secured. So it's not present and voting, it is the total membership. Nominated members of parliament participate in the impeachment process, yes, though they do not participate in the election. Nominated members of parliament participate in the impeachment process. That is absolutely correct. B. Okay, next. Which of the following officials hold the office during the pleasure of the president? That means the president can dismiss them anytime. Prime Minister, yes. Attorney General of India, yes. Comptroller and Auditor General of India, no, because our constitution clearly says that the CAG of India shall be removed in the same manner as a Supreme Court judge, which is a very difficult process. Okay, so the president cannot dismiss CAG just like that. CAG can only be removed like a Supreme Court judge. Ministers of the Union, yes, any minister can be dismissed by the president. I mean, the technical term is pleasure of the president. So the answer would come out to be 1, 2, and 4. Okay, next. Consider the following statements regarding the veto powers of the president. The president has no veto power in respect of constitutional amendment bill. The president exercises a qualified veto which can be overridden by legislature with a higher majority. In case of a money bill, the president can either give his assent or reject it, but cannot return for its reconsideration. So there are 4 types of vetoes. Okay, one is absolute veto. That means the president rejects the bill. Then there is suspensive veto. The president will send the bill back for reconsideration to the houses, and if the houses repass it, well, the president has to give his assent. So the president somehow delays it, okay, for some time, suspensive. Then there is pocket veto. The president neither gives his assent nor rejects it, just delays the entire process, because the constitution has not mentioned any timeline as to how long should the president take to give his assent. So the president neither says yes nor says no. So in a sense, the bill moves into his pocket. Okay, so this is pocket veto. And then there is qualified veto. Qualified veto is that if a president rejects a bill, the bill goes back to the house, and if the house passes that bill with a higher majority, then the president has to give his assent. The thing is, this qualified veto is not available to Indian president. It is available only to US president. This is not in India. Indian president has these 3 vetoes. Okay. Now, president has no veto power in case of constitutional amendment. Absolutely correct. The president cannot veto. He has to give his assent to a constitutional amendment bill. The president exercises qualified veto. No Indian president does not have any qualified veto. But in case of money bill, the president has absolute veto or pocket veto, but does not have any suspensive veto. Basically, the president, in case of money bill, the president either signs the bill or rejects it, but he cannot send it back for reconsideration. So this is also correct. Answer is 1 and 3 only. Okay. Next. Regarding the vacancy in the office of president, consider the following. If the vacancy is caused by the expiration of term, that means 5 years have completed, the election to fill the vacancy must be held within 6 months of that expiration. If the office falls vacant by resignation or death, the vice president acts as president for the remainder of the term. The resignation letter by the president must be addressed to vice president, who communicates it to Lok Sabha speaker. Okay. So the thing is, if there is a vacancy because the term has expired, the election should be conducted before the term expires. Okay. So the president has 5-year term. The election for the next president should be conducted before this expiration, not after. Okay. But if the office falls vacant because of resignation by the president or the death of president, the vice president takes the role of president for next 6 months, because in the next 6 months, election for the new president should be conducted. The vice president shall not remain president for the remainder of the term, which means that if the president dies in the second year, the vice president shall serve as president for another 2.5 years. That is not the case. He will only serve as president for 6 months, and within 6 months, new elections for the new president should be conducted. So this is also false. But yes, the procedure for resigning is that the president must address the resignation to vice president, who communicates it to the speaker. This part is absolutely correct. So the answer would come out to be A. Right? Next. Consider the following statements comparing the pardoning powers of the president and the governor. Okay. Both the president and governor have concurrent powers to pardon a death sentence. This is absolutely false. Remember this. Okay. Both president and governor can suspend, remit, commute a death sentence. But pardoning a death sentence is only the job of the president. The governor can suspend, remit, commute, but not pardon a death sentence. Okay, this is very important. Pardon means completely finishing the case. The governor cannot do it. The president can pardon sentences inflicted by court-martial, while the governor cannot. Absolutely correct. if the punishment is given by a court martial, only the president has the power to suspend, remit, commute, pardon in this case. The governor has no jurisdiction in court martials. The governor can suspend, remit, commute a death sentence. Yes, I told you, he can. He just cannot pardon. So this is also correct. The answer would come out to be B. Okay? Remember this part, because this is the essential difference between governor and president's pardoning powers. Next. Which of the following statements is not correct? Remember, not. Regarding the office of vice president. The vice president is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Electoral college for the vice president includes members of state legislative assemblies. Vice president can be removed by a resolution of Rajya Sabha by a effective majority and agreed to by Lok Sabha. When acting as president, the vice president does not perform the duties of chairman of Rajya Sabha. So yes, when there is a president, vice president acts as an ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Absolutely correct. Now, the electoral college for vice president includes members of parliament, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and it includes both elected and nominated. In case of vice president, remember this, they are included in this. But state legislative members are not included in this. Okay, so this is false. Vice president can be removed by resolution of Rajya Sabha by effective majority and agreed to by Lok Sabha. Yes. The removal process for vice president is not as difficult as the president. Vice president can be removed by an effective majority by Rajya Sabha and a simple majority by Lok Sabha. The motion for removal of vice president can also be only moved in Rajya Sabha. And as far as the majorities are concerned, I have explained this to you in our previous lectures. Special majority, effective majority, absolute majority, simple majority. So it is effective majority, absolutely correct. When acting as president, vice president does not perform the duties of chairman. Yes. When he's acting as the president for the next 6 months, he won't be handling Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha would be handled by deputy chairman. So the answer is C. Okay. Next. With reference to legislative powers of the president, consider the following. He can dissolve the Lok Sabha before the expiry of his term. Absolutely correct. He nominates 12 members to Lok Sabha from fields like literature and science. Absolutely false. 12 members to Rajya Sabha. Earlier, there used to be a provision for nominating 2 members from Anglo-Indian community in Lok Sabha. But that provision has been removed. There are no nominated members in Lok Sabha. There are 12 in Rajya Sabha. So this is false. His prior recommendation is required for a bill regarding the alteration of boundaries of state. So remember Article 3. If you are altering the boundary of the state, the bill for that needs a prior recommendation of the president. This part is absolutely correct. B. Okay, next. Consider the following statements regarding the ordinance making power of the president. The president can promulgate ordinances only when both houses of parliament are not in session. You know what ordinance is? Temporary law-making power of the president. That if the house is not in session and we need a law in emergency-like situation, then president can pass a temporary law called ordinance. So president can promulgate an ordinance only when both houses are not in session. The president can withdraw an ordinance at any time. Ordinances are used to deal with unforeseen or urgent matters when parliament is not in session. So yes, this part is correct. Okay. And president can withdraw an ordinance at any time. But there is one thing. President cannot pass an ordinance if both houses are in session. But if either of the house is missing, not in session, let's suppose Lok Sabha is in session but Rajya Sabha isn't, then too president can promulgate an ordinance. So not both, either of the houses. Okay, so the answer is 2 and 3. Clear? Next. And by the way, as soon as the houses get back in session, then within 6 weeks, that ordinance has to be approved by the houses, otherwise it collapses. This is also, I mean, you are familiar with this, right? Next.